What's up, you guys, and welcome back to another live stream here on the Sergeant Tank YouTube channel. My name is Jeremy. Thanks so much for joining me on a Sunday afternoon live stream or morning, depending on where you're at. So I'm going to give it a few minutes here and just let a few folks roll in, and then I'll be taking your guys' questions. So, all right. Let me pull this up here. Hope everybody is doing well. If you want, go ahead and share it out. We did share it on Instagram and Facebook. So, yeah. So there probably will be somewhat of a delay, usually 10, 12 seconds thereabouts. So bear with me as questions start coming in. If I miss it for whatever reason, as I always say, just go ahead and put it in the chat. So we're here just to hang out, talk shop, talk fish keeping, that sort of thing. No specific topic for today. I just figured I would pop on here. It's been a couple of weeks or so since I last done any content here on YouTube. So hope everybody is doing well. If you want, feel free to go ahead and share it out. We did share it via Instagram as well as Facebook on our business page. So, yeah. What keeps things rolling along here for me and the way I enjoy doing it is kind of letting you guys take the reins and offering some insight within the live chat and kind of help guide the stream. So it's hit or miss with topics. I've covered lots and lots of topics in the past. So if there is something that's specific, hey, feel free to go ahead and put it in the chat. If you're watching the replay, let me know down in the comments, and maybe we'll cover it in a future video. So yeah, if you guys want to give me a thumbs up, let me know how audio and video is. That it would be greatly appreciated. So I got a couple different screens up right now. I have the back end as well as I'm looking at YouTube right now. So I just want to make sure I'm not missing any comments. Like I said, we'll give it a couple of minutes or so here because I get notifications go out at different times. But how's everybody doing on this Sunday afternoon? Hope everybody's been doing well. Yeah, let me know, you guys. Just give me a simple thumbs up. Let me know how audio and video is. Hopefully it's not popping. If it is, just let me know. I can put a pop filter on it. I can put a screen over this. It should be okay, but I can't see those levels, and I don't want it peaking. Since I'm not hearing the audio, I don't have that hooked up myself. I can't tell if it's peaking or not. So we got Vinonsky, Mark Biggies. How you doing? Hope you guys are doing well. So yeah, I appreciate it. The last couple of live streams, I noticed that was peaking. So I'm very critical when it comes to audio. We got Joel G in the house. How you doing, buddy? Looks like chat's coming through on both ends, so I'm just gonna close out the YouTube window here. So yeah, what's been going on in your guys' world when it comes to fish keeping? As I mentioned before, I really haven't been paying too much attention to the interwebs. Just been busy on my end, as a lot of us have. So I definitely hope you guys have been well. I hope things are doing at least okay for you and wherever you're at. Yeah, here try to answer you guys' questions, hang out with you guys, and kind of go from there. So it's hard to really come up. I mean, I could go through some of the older topics. I tried to figure out today, kind of a last minute thing, which is uncommon for me. Just trying to find the time to, in the midst of everything else, to incorporate a live stream with you guys and hang out for an hour or so. But a lot of live streams, a lot of video content that I've done on many different topics within the realm of fish keeping. So I'm definitely open. If you guys have something in specific to kind of focus on here today, and like I was saying when I started, if there is something in specific that I don't cover today, I can definitely cover that in a future video. We got Jeff in the house. How you doing, buddy? Denny's Aquatics, hello. So yeah. Well, it's kind of quiet in the chat, so I try to come up somewhat prepared in the event. If the thing is, without getting any type of dialogue or questions in the live chat, it's understandable. I got to come up with something else, some backup. So as I've talked about before, and I'm not going to go through a ton on this, is one of the biggest aspects to me when it comes to different variables with specifically a fish breeding with freshwater home aquaria. So with really any type of freshwater aquatic organism, one of the greatest tools and assets that we utilize in our operation when it comes to Sergeant Tank LLC and how we produce not only in large volume, but dealing direct to consumers since 2007, one of the greatest tools that we've used for different egg depositing type specimens of livestock, it could be a number of different things, is spawning mops. And there is different variations of spawning mops. They're very easy to make. It's something that we do carry on the site for those that don't want to make their own. So we've incorporated, we kind of coined the phrase Baba Breeder. If you guys have been following us for any period of time, I no longer really carry those. Just kind of went away from that, but you can easily incorporate. You could take the cork off, or if you're making your own, you could use a bobber, pretty much any size, depending on the size of the actual mop. Again, this is 100% acrylic. And there is different colors that you can use. You can use like an olive green, more of a forest green. You can use the black. And it really kind of is dependent upon the species that you're working with. I find with some cyprinids, characins, rainbow fish, killifish, they may prefer one over the other. And really that comes down to, as I put emphasis on many times here on this channel through video content, live streams, is you have to treat each one of your setups as its own little science project, because without really focusing on necessarily the water chemistry, which can attribute to different variables when it comes to how fish breed, how they're induced to breed, how they're conditioned in through the whole adaptation process. But yeah, something to kind of think about if you guys have never really worked with species of fish when it comes to specifically spawning mops. And why I like the bobber over the cork is these are suspended. Obviously you can weigh them down if you want to. If you could take this off and just let it drop to the bottom. Why I incorporated several years back the bobber method instead of the cork was the versatility, where you could simply just release it, you could drop it to the bottom, or you could keep it afloat. That was one of the reasons. Of course, we still use them within the fish rooms, but as far as from a retail standpoint, the ones that we offer on the site now are just the ones with the cork. And again, we have a couple of different options when it comes to colors. And again, it really comes down, like I said, I can't put emphasis on that enough, due to the variability when it comes to that, depending on, again, there is variables depending on what it is specifically that you're working with, what you're trying to spawn, how they may show up in a mop. So that's why black works extremely well. I mean, most of the eggs stand out, but you may find some group of fish that you're working with may not necessarily prefer the black. They may want to go to an olive green or more of a like a forest green, that kind of thing. So again, color really isn't necessarily the most important factor. What's the most important factor is you guys put in the time and the work and do your own due diligence and treat that ecosystem as its own science project, because again, what works in our fish room or somebody else's may not necessarily work in your guys' case. So these are extremely easy to make, extremely cost effective, and by far one of the greatest assets and tools that you can use for many different species. Not only egg depositing type fish, but even free spawners. They work great for shrimplets. So if you're working with Caridina or Neocaridina shrimp, they work extremely well. Take a brine shrimp net, fine net. As your offspring begin to start reproducing, the little shrimplets, of course, anybody that has worked with any type of shrimp know that they can be extremely small. They love this. It's a safe haven. You take that brine shrimp net. I've done a video on this. You put it underneath there. Why I like brine shrimp net is it's a fine net. It's not a coarse net. Not only where they can't pass through, but it as far as the abrasiveness to that, I much prefer in that situation the brine shrimp or more of a fine, smooth net. So as you can imagine, that's floating in the tank. Take that brine shrimp net underneath. Again, once they start reproducing, you're picking it up simultaneously at the same time, and now you can relocate if you need to. Put them in a specimen container if you just want to get some good video on them. If you want to take a good picture. If you just want to jumpstart and start a new system with them or raise them up in a different ecosystem. By doing that, you will be amazed of the amount of quantity that you will find once they start developing. So again, it's a great way to do that as well. They provide safe havens for small fry, small offspring. They also work extremely well with different types of crayfish. Obviously, not everybody is able to work with different types of crayfish due to invasive species, due to being banned within certain states if you're here in the U.S. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking on that. I've covered when it comes to breeding of crayfish and that kind of stuff and shrimp and all that on several videos. So again, this is just kind of giving you guys some insight there if you are new. Another great one are these caves here behind us. So these are custom caves that we've sourced out. What's nice, coming direct, customized to our specification directly from down south. So I'll just leave it at that. They've all been appropriately preserved in a sense to where there's no issues from a chemical standpoint. So all natural, no issues there. Again, these are very common. And the whole size is specific to more of your dwarf cichlid species that tend to be more cave type spawners, and they enjoy this method. So something I've talked about before is specifically within the complex or the family of your Pelvicochromis. It's one that we enjoy. It's one that I really, really do enjoy. I find even some mouth breathing type of Victorian, smaller Victorian, kind of falling in with that complex of dwarf cichlidae, is they work extremely well for that. These are our custom caves. Again, those we offer on the site. These also we offer on the site. These probably the first quarter of our presentation that I give, which is like an hour and a half presentation talking about methodology to fish breeding, is these many, many years ago. I know other folks have done video off from our concept on these. If anybody new, I've been working within the ancestry of cirrhosis complex, species 3 complex since 2006. I've produced thousands upon thousands upon thousands of ancestral cirrhosis. I used to do a lot wholesale years back when they kind of were starting to become popular many, many years ago in the hobby. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, your common bristlenose pleco, different variants of your veil tail, which are your long fins, different color morphs, that sort of thing that you see. These are specifically designed as reverse trios. You can use them in a trio, you can use them in a pair. Of course, now that through conditioning and adaptation of generations through so many years in the hobby, from that standpoint, when it comes to your ancestor cirrhosis, is a fact, and that goes for a number of different specimens of livestock. And something I've talked about greatly is the importance of adaptation and conditioning. Some things that people need to separate is from the mindset of wild versus captive. And sometimes you have a hybrid of those two when you're trying to condition in through adaptation and conditioning, that sort of thing, from wild into generational offspring of F1, F2, F3, so on and so forth, when it comes to obtaining and bringing in certain wild-caught specimens of livestock. So with these guys, they work phenomenally well. They are specifically designed. There is videos out there, like I said, of people actually duplicating these, which is awesome to see. People are enjoying them. Again, you can use water spikes. I get it. Some people be like, you don't need anything. They'll spawn under a rock. They'll spawn under a piece of driftwood. That is because of years of adaptation and conditioning within the hobby, as far as home aquaria. So again, I'm a firm believer on that through many different generations of generational offspring. When it comes to that, makes the work a lot easier for hobbyists. So yeah, those are just a couple of things I wanted to point out. We got Fish Tank Barn in the house. Been doing a lot of Tanganikans. Then he said, right on. Pep and Creed Aquatics, hello. Big Tank Hank, hello. Let's see. Chubbs Aquatics, hello. So it looks like a lot of hellos here in the chat. So yeah, if you guys are just joining, spend an hour or so just hanging out, taking your guys' questions here. It's hit or miss. We've been going for about 18 minutes. So kind of let you guys facilitate the stream. But I appreciate you guys joining me. So no specific topic. Again, I've covered in great detail on, I can't even tell you the amount of hundreds of live streams that we've done here on the platform and other platforms. But again, trying to find the time to be able to spend with you guys and hang out once everything else is going on. I definitely enjoy it. So this is kind of my time to kind of reset and kind of put everything off to the side for an hour or so and just, hang out with you guys. So if you have any specific question for me, feel free to go ahead and put it in chat. Like I said, if I don't cover it here today for whatever reason, we can try to focus on that in a future video. So yeah. I was tempted to bring out more different types of, majority of everything that I incorporate within the fish rooms when it comes to growouts, breeding. It's something I've done for years, is incorporation of do-it-yourself type of projects that work for my specific system. So again, what works for us here isn't necessarily going to work for you guys and what you're trying to do. So that's why there's a lot of variables that go into it. As I always mention to you guys, if it's not broke, don't fix it. If you're getting good results in what you're doing, just keep doing what you're doing. I get people want to experiment and try new things. It's kind of a moot point. If it's been working for you, and you're getting success and you're ultimately getting the results that you desire based on your interest in the hobby, then continue to do it that way. So I am here to strictly just provide a little bit of motivation or insight or what have you when it comes to this amazing hobby. And if I'm able to intrigue somebody to venture off and try something maybe different, then hey, more power to you. So I try to really simplify it from a cost effective standpoint, as well as make it as easy as possible when it comes to the work that I have going, running, all the systems that we are here. So you learn very quickly how to adapt to your surroundings. So we talked a couple weeks back or so about the whole layout in the flow through system when it comes to setting up fish rooms and that sort of thing. And what I have found over the years of running multiple fish rooms is that flow through concept of having coding in place and that sort of thing. So you can check it out. I will link it down in the description for you guys, so you can watch that later if you would like. Pepin Creek Aquatics, no. I don't see anything in the foreseeable future when it comes to phantom plecos. Surprisingly, most based on our logo, people think that I'm just huge into diversity when it comes to Plecostomus in general. When it comes to more or less, I guess, falling kind of under that lower carrot, which is a very broad spectrum. But when it comes to those type of bottom dwelling type specimens, again, I think a lot of people may assume that based on our logo, but bristlenose all day, every day. The reason I have always preferred your ancestris over others is just due to the standpoint that I personally enjoy them more. I find that they work well in a number of different ecosystems, just because they've been a condition and adapted for so long to handle kind of apologize about that, handle more of a broad spectrum, more of a wide range. Not that you can't do that with others, but myself personally, I'm not. So it may surprise some. I'm not surprisingly a huge fan of a lot of your quote unquote, some of your other fancy plecos. There's so much more that I've done over the years that interests me, just from a hobbyist as well as a business standpoint. Because everything that we do and the way I've been doing it for years, kind of going from wholesale to more direct to consumer, you really have to focus on, obviously from a business standpoint, that's the reality of it, right? Knowing what sells, how the market works, kind of pre-planning of how the market's going to peak in the future, and really kind of focus on those things. So there's a lot that I don't show behind the scenes of what's going on, and there's reasons for that. You may see that 3, 4, 5 years down the road. I have oftentimes people reach out and they tell me I'm kind of not unusual. That's the wrong word for it, but kind of a mysterious. And there's reasons why I may come off that way. So good competition is great. Don't get me wrong. But there's always got to be certain levels there. That to me is just common sense. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. But great question, to say the least. They are a beautiful specimen, that I can say for certain. But yeah. Blackbeard algae, I personally, it's one of those things, it's all natural. I really, really actually love, especially like a sponge filter that starts growing the blackbeard algae. But Pandagara is known for kind of eliminating that. I personally haven't seen any success when it comes to like a mono shrimp. When I've had systems with blackbeard algae, you could do the whole hydrogen peroxide, spraying it, kind of letting it die back. I personally don't do that. I've seen people dose a tank utilizing that. But again, yeah, I don't like taking extreme measures when it comes to anything, because the way I look at it, again, it kind of comes down to, if it's not broke, why fix it? Is there a reason why? Obviously, besides nutrient imbalances, lighting concept, a number of different variables there, without knowing exactly every single water parameter and every single condition when it comes to that. I've helped a lot of people locally. I've even personally have gone locally to other hobbyists and have assisted them on a number of different things when it comes to some surgical procedures on their own livestock. And again, I'm not claiming I'm a veterinarian. I'm just very comfortable in it. I don't cover that here. I've had people ask me, why don't I cover more? Because I've dealt so much with different types of bacterial, parasitic issues. There's a lot of reasons. I've even had clubs ask me, can I talk on when it comes to those sort of things? Because you don't get a lot of people that talk on it. Even if, let's say, hypothetically, somebody who is a veterinarian talking on it, again, you can see kind of some of the adversity that comes into play, because you don't want to be an advocate for individuals just going out and doing things. Because especially from a business standpoint, the reality of it is, if I start saying do this and do that, how I medicate, how I do that, I just bite my tongue, especially through social media. Half of the time I hear just really poor responses, and other times I'm like, that's just not the case. Again, I've been doing this for a very long time. I have medicated many different fish over the years with absolute success. I've medicated the entire systems with absolute success. That just comes down, second nature, comes down to experience. Again, is it more of an aesthetics thing? Is it, I just personally don't find issues with most algae. A lot of people, it just comes down to aesthetics. That's one of the things, without turning into a full-on rant, is people look at a system, and if they think that system, like I could set up right now, just to make a point, I could set up 3 systems side by side, not literally at this very moment, but side by side, or even 2 systems. Nobody would have any idea of what's going on inside that ecosystem without actually knowing how to properly test the system. That is common sense. Chances are, majority of the time, unless you're a long-term aquarist, and I've ran multiple fish rooms with multiple tanks, especially when it comes to breeding, as I always tell you guys, when breeding is one of the greatest passions, obviously not only from a business standpoint, but a hobbyist standpoint, you can see clearly. I earn every one of those. It takes a lot of patience and time. And I just really, really enjoy that. And I have really studied it for many, many years. I've done a lot when it comes to that. And there's a lot more I do want to work with. But again, I kind of have my focus on what I'm doing right now at this very moment in the hobby, from both levels. But my point to that is, if you're looking at that, I find oftentimes visually, just kind of from a psychological point of view, people are probably going to end up, if one looks super clear, one has some algae, and then one that has some detritus and some mulm, and they're seeing like detritus worms and a number of different stuff, they're probably going to go with that first one, or maybe even that second one, and be like, man, that's a dirty tank. It's your fish are suffering. And in all reality, I can tell you from doing this for many years, you don't know. What I always tell people is, unfortunately, my psychic hotline isn't working today, and unfortunately, the fish can't communicate with us. All we can do is, if we're looking at it from an outside perspective, looking at that ecosystem and seeing what's happened from an activity point of view of understanding the psychology of the livestock that are in that tank, then you can look at clamp fins, you can look at potential of bloat, you can look at, are they being active, are they eating? Again, this is all, you could think of every variable on the planet till you actually know how to test that water, and even then there's variables. So again, yeah, but to each their own. What I tell people, if you do what you're always done, you're going to get what you always got. So again, aesthetics, to me, I know what is effective. I know what's healthy. I know what I enjoy as well, and what's ultimately healthy for the livestock that I'm working with. But ran over for now. Let's see here. Kent's Fish, hello. Went from breeding 50 episo. How would you start? I have a good tank set up and water quality. It's soft water, or leave and just change. What I always tell, again, I want to put really added preface to this point, is without, again, without, it's a difficult, direct question that I could answer in 30 seconds. It would honestly take me to effectively know is where, first of all, you got them from. And you don't have to share that here because that's still not going to tell me what water source they came from. The biggest thing that I find when it comes to aspects of fish breeding and overall the quality of the health of the livestock is trying to adaptation. And again, I cannot make that clear enough. The ease of transition from one ecosystem to the next. Again, there's variables in between there, but when you got them, I know with apistogrammas, I've worked with them in the past, and again, it's very subjective. Is yes, they tend to kind of condition them. They do tend to like a little bit intake in proteins. Water temperature can play a factor in that, in the overall buffering component, looking at your overall bicarbonates to try to neutralize that. So where your calcium distribution within an ecosystem, you balance it out, and you can use certain buffers. I wouldn't use pH up or pH down. Buffer that system, RO, DI, true reverse osmosis, deionized water, trying to bring your KH level almost down to 0 to 2 in that range, and your pH probably more of a neutral basis if that is a track that you're working on. If you can kind of condition them slowly down to more of a neutral pH, you can use stratum. As far as fluvial stratum, again, I'm not being paid for by or sponsored by. It's a good buffering one that lasts for quite some time. There's ADA, there's different types of manufacturers out there. But RODI is what I use if I have gotten, you guys would be surprised of how far I've been able to get. Again, it takes a year or more sometimes to bring the pH level down, but you have to be very, very careful with that. When you really start playing with the pH, I've seen a lot of adverse effects causing, may not see it necessarily up front in the short term, but in the long term adversity when it comes to really getting that pH down there. But you know, most livestock that I have worked with over the years can handle more of a neutral pH, and you may have to unfortunately drop it even lower than that, but that is a baseline. Again, females can tend to be quite aggressive. I've seen that firsthand when I've worked with them. If you play around too much with it, sometimes if you're really been working with it for quite some time, my suggestion would be to kind of sit back, relax from it, just kind of take a breather, and you'd be surprised. A week or two later, you go in there, and then now you notice some breeding behavior. So that's kind of where I would start. That would be my suggestion. I don't like being, I guess, without kind of, like I was saying earlier on, without knowing specifically the water chemistry that they came from. That's why I'm very, very critical. Anybody that knows me well enough, I'm very critical in the sources I obtain my own breeding groups from originally, because I plan everything months in advance. I'm getting everything prepared. Even right now, I'm getting things prepared for summer tubbing coming up, because I run a lot of outdoor tubs in the summertime for breeding purposes. So I'm getting everything prepared already now indoors through adaptation and conditioning to get them ready to settle in for outdoors. So again, the process that I use is very, very specific. And it comes down to the same standpoint when it comes to our shipping protocol that I've been doing for many years. Is the exact same thing. Everything is in preparation to, leading up to. As far as, that's a great question, Carno Gas, if I'm saying that right. From the standpoint of flow through, so you're talking probably a centralized filtration system. So some big box stores, if you guys aren't aware, real quick, not going to mention names, but some of your bigger box that deal with a broad spectrum of aquatic organisms. You're going to go in there, and they're all going to be on essentially one large system, flow through type system that typically, if you go in the back end of it, that you don't see out in front, They have a very large filtration concept and that sort of thing. It has its pros and cons. I used to run it for many years, specifically when I was mass producing ancestral cirrhosis, your species 3 complex. I used that. So one thing to keep in mind, I want to give you guys a tip. This is a tip on Sunday, if you guys remember, been following me. I talked about a little bit before I go much more detail into my presentation on this. When it comes to ancestral cirrhosis, kind of within that lower carot, within that family, again, which is a broad spectrum, something to think about is through the induction of pheromones and hormones within the overall water source in the water column. So one thing that oftentimes is overlooked or individuals may not even think of is why females and males and through courtship and that sort of thing, we're just focused on this specific group here, is from the standpoint when you're introducing a reverse trio, there's reasons for it. I'm not going to cover that here. I could spend 8 hours just talking about the reasons why. But think about the female and the male. So let's say you have a trio, a reverse trio, even a pair of ancestors within that system. Is the pheromones and the hormones are ultimately released from the male causes a constriction effect within the uterine of the female. What that does is that is telling the female it is time to courtship. It's time that we go into breeding. On the flip side of that, they can also cause a reduce of growth. That's why adding a continuous, not on an automated water change system, because to me that's inconsistency. To a point. And I'm not knocking on anybody that does. The reason I say that is consistency over a 24-hour time frame. The downside to that is if it fails, even if you're running it through multiple levels of carbon block type of filtration, one of the downsides of running a continuous drip system is if it fails. And if you didn't notice it fail, that's why there was fail safes that I had in place to prevent the opportunity if one of those failed. How am I going to react to it without being here in the physical present? And running a continuous drip system over a 24-hour time frame, running through carbon blocks and that sort of thing, was very, very effective. The downside of doing so is if you don't have fail safes in place, and even if you do, if that continuous drip system stops, and it, again, there's a lot of variables because it depends on the size. We're running about 1,500 gallons through a refugium setup. I had an algae scraper at the bottom, using that refugium for a number of different things, for plants, for safe havens for offspring. There's a number of different things that you can utilize when it comes to a refugium concept on a large type of rack flow through type system. And that was one of the reasons that I did that, and I was able to grow out bristlenose plecos very, very quickly, and get them not only growing out quickly in order to now wholesale them, but also to get them reproducing, so I could look at phenotype and genotype and start really looking at line breeding and that sort of thing. The downside, besides if you don't have the fail-safe in place, is if that happens to cut off and now you're causing inconsistencies of imbalance when you go from one extreme to the other. I've talked about that time and time again, is you have to look at slow and gradual for the most part in this hobby. And I'm telling you, you're going to see a lot less issues. I find people are up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, that sort of thing, without trying to find kind of a neutral basis. And that goes for a number of different things, not just when it comes to breeding or flow through systems or individualized systems. Personally, I prefer individualized systems, especially what I've been working with for the last several years. Is the other downside is now trying to treat that entire system. It gets very, very costly. And sometimes it's too late before you even notice, because you have so many different chambers, so many different systems, depending on what it is that you're running. So at the end of the day, if somebody was going to ask, what would you do? Absolutely 100% individualized systems in the long term. Again, they have their benefits depending on what it is that you're working with. You can do a very small system based on that concept, but I would not recommend doing your entire fish room like that at all. And again, there's I'm just telling you from doing a lot of different things personally. As soon as one situation happens, everybody thinks it's all puppy dogs and rainbows until one situation happens, and as soon as one situation happens, you are going to regret it. But that's how you learn. I have lost, and I shared this story, actually one of the first stories that I shared when I entered the whole realm of creating content here for you guys from an educational point of view on YouTube when it comes to fish keeping, is I lost well over 1,000 ancestris, things I have been working with for years. I had a very nice setup, large setup with line bred Neocaridina shrimp I had been working with. And I didn't practice what I preached. I trusted the source I introduced. No matter what I did, I lost everything. Thousands of dollars, hours of time. I just ended up euthanizing humanely. The rest, I was able to treat. Some pretty much just ended up having to euthanize, unfortunately, the rest of it. But I did not let it get me down. I got to a point where I actually started laughing about it. Because you either laugh, you get angry, or some people may cry. But for me, I rose above it, didn't let it discourage me. I only built something better and greater in the end. So, yeah. We got Priscilla in the house. How are you? So, yeah, great questions, you guys. Thank you so much for Priscilla for dropping the link. I appreciate it. Car no go. I will get your name right, I promise. Car no gas. Okay. That's a try saying that 10 times fast. But yeah. Vinoski, I will be having some of those. Give me some time. Let me know what you're thinking. You can message me via Instagram when this is done, and I'll get with you. So yeah, let me know what you're thinking. Right now, I don't have them. There's reasons why I hoard. I probably, in all honesty, have 150 Arrhesius walleye. Like I said, you guys, from a business standpoint, if you guys aren't aware, from a corporate level, working a multi-billion-dollar company, many different levels prior to everything else that went on in my life years ago. And then going from wholesale level to direct to consumer, when I try to balance between hobbyists and what I can offer on the site, obviously there's reasons for it. I haven't actually gone through and inventoried everything, but I have multiple systems going. I try to get things so far and so high in the event because not only right now everything is shut down for a lot of people when it comes to pretty much in-person activities, when it comes to auction swaps. So I try to offer the biggest challenge from a business standpoint is when it comes to that is you try to offer club related stuff to support, try to offer when it comes to conventions and swaps, when it comes to auctions, when it comes to business. So that's one of the perks is here on YouTube. You know, if you follow the channel, it's one of the advantages, I guess, is where you may pull on my heartstrings just a little bit. And if you really want something bad enough, I usually try to. There's nothing that puts a greater joy for me as somebody that not only wants stock from what we have produced over the years, but just wants that livestock, you know, want something new. They're definitely an absolutely beautiful, beautiful fish. I have an article on the website under the blog post that I've done on those and talked about those. But yeah. Any ideas on systems for shrimp, baby shrimp, make it through sponges? Yeah, I mean, you're going to want to use, problem with using like a coarse sponge, so like an inlet, depending on the filtration. When it comes to a shrimp tank, I would not be using canisters completely. I don't want to go in, hang on backs, canister filters, sump systems. Just be using a sponge filter. In all honesty, with shrimp, if you get that thing set up well enough, you don't even need anything. depending on, again, there is variables, but we have conditioned over the years our livestock here when it comes to our shrimp that we offer and that sort of thing. They're very hardy, very, very hardy. And again, it's all about balance. I cannot put that emphasis on that enough. Don't play guessing games when it comes to your systems as far as water chemistry. Understand how to properly use test kits. Understand, obviously, give or take, when you get to a point you've been working with something long enough, yes, of course, visually, that's the first thing that we see of what's going on, not only with shrimp, not only with fish, that sort of thing. Obviously, we can react to it, but you'll get to a place when it comes to that. I don't know specifically what you're trying to accomplish when it comes to shrimp, but again, you don't need anything too extravagant. I would just be using sponge filters. You know, a lot of Nias grass. They love plants. I find people way overfeed shrimp. They feed shrimp way too much. And again, if you guys are power feeding shrimp 18 times a day, 150 times a week, whatever the case might be, and if it's working great for you and you're finding an explosion of shrimp and it's been lasting you for 10 years, then keep doing what you're doing. Now, if you're finding issues where you're like, man, I can't keep getting fungus growth on the substrate, I'm seeing just issues of imbalances in the system, algae's out of control, can't even see inside the tank, everything's just kind of going haywire, then you may want to reflect on probably your feeding regimen. Because again, a well-balanced system, they're little bodies and they can produce. That's the surprising thing, is they can produce when it comes to waste. They can be waste producers, even though they're small. Believe me, I've seen it firsthand. So you'd be surprised of what they can produce over a period of time. Obviously, they're constantly, like snails, or they're going after that and picking at it. But yeah. So if you have without a little bit more insight, that's where I would start. I mean, that eliminates a lot of issues. Now, if you're using like an intake with a sponge, I've had canister filters where I've used appropriate screens on the intake so they can't get sucked in. Same thing like with a hang-on bag, exact same concept. But again, without spending too much time on that, yeah. Captain Spicy, great seeing you, man. Appreciate it. Hope you've been well, my friend. It's been quite some time. Yep, overflow is weak point. I strain with sponge, but too coarse. So, tip I want to give you guys too is, instead of running a pre-intake sponge, which obviously I'm not going to sit here and nerd out on the standpoint of mechanical type filtration and biological and the benefits of both, and it adds another variable or a realm of your biological process and how you can maintain the whole nitrification process and all of that stuff, which most people don't probably really care too much about. Is, instead of putting an actual sponge on your intake, what I would recommend is utilizing a 100% acrylic window screen. You can get them in rolls. Go to Menards, Lowe's. Not being paid for by or sponsored by. It's something I plan on covering. It's actually in my presentation. So whenever we get back to doing things in normal, it's one of the things I share via slide, as I show you exactly the whole concept and everything that I use when it comes to making your own breeding supplies for breeding purposes of many different things. Is you take a little zip tie and you wrap that bad boy around that intake. You can use a hot glue gun. You can do a number of different things. You got to use your ingenuity, but find that they don't clog up as fast as a coarse or a mid-grade or fine sponge, what have you. Like I said, that's why sponge filters work phenomenally well. So, and you can use that concept for a number of different things. You just have to use your imagination. Like I said, I don't have it here in front of me, but those planter, I lost my train of thought, but you guys know what I mean. It's planter baskets. I've have videos where I talked about using shoebox things is nothing new. Heck, I've used little tiny organizing drawers for when I'd done a number of different killifish and even rainbow fish and Petricola lucipinus, that kind of thing. Is you can grow out things in there, and again, you just have fun with it. At the end of the day, you got to try out different stuff and figure out what works and what doesn't work. So we got Kevin in the house, KG Cichlids. How you doing? Love the jacket. If you're talking to me, this is not a jacket, but it's a hoodie, man. Come on, bro. You work in retail, you know the difference between the jacket and the hoodie. Just giving you a hard time. Exactly, nut and bolt. I'm not even joking. Like I said, I could have brought the whole kitchen sink with me and brought everything here with you guys that I've used. A lot of the stuff I have in storage that I created that it just doesn't work, but at least I have it there ready to rock and roll when I need it. And I thought about before, like I could go to IKEA or the dollar store and it would be a fish keeper's dream when it comes to the amount of things that you can do on a very low budget with absolute success. I'm talking making your own filtration. I'm not even kidding. Like, keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. The KISS method. Well, if your room wasn't so dark, I could tell. How bright do you want it? Is this better? Now I look like crap on here. Does that look better on your guys' end? Is that like, woo, way too bright? Who am I? Sorry, Jeff. If you're lurking, man, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yep, just wash it out. There you go. There. I like to bring the setting in. You know, it's like ASMR. Like, should I do an ASMR channel? I could literally just like go back to the old school way of doing things, go around from tank to tank. I used to call it Mop 'em Sunday, where I'll literally pull mops out of different aquariums and go through and start picking the eggs and show you the process there. And that could be in a whole ASMR. There you go. That's it. VB23 best fry food. Depends on, let me know what you're trying to feed. Because again, it's pretty subjective. I need to know what type. Let me know if you're doing a kerasin, cyprinid, rainbow fish, killifish, catfish, and the list goes on. So let kind of narrow it down for me. What family of fish? Platy babies, I would do live baby brine. If you want to get those guys rocking and rolling, there you go. Transition over to Daphnia. Those guys are plenty big enough. Plenty big enough. You don't need to be doing microworms, vinegar eels, paramecium, what have you. I mean, there's a number of different things that you could do. The microfauna within the tank, if you have a well-established tank, if you have a well-established ecosystem, obviously the microfauna and microorganisms in there, they can feed off from. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to get those guys raising up fast enough, then I would recommend just doing live baby brine. It's super cost-effective. It's very easy to do. And if you don't want to do live foods and deal with it, I get it. I would just use crushed up, whatever food you're using. They're not too picky. What I always tell you guys, balance between carbohydrates and proteins for most livestock, give or take. Just balance that out. Look at dietary confusion, skip feeding, alternate feeding, something I've talked about and covered many times. There you go. Tropical Color Granules been around for years. They got great color, and they work phenomenally well. Absolutely. But if you want to try to see an increase, you can use Vibrobites. You can use, like I said, there are so many different things that you can use when it comes to fry foods. Just make your own. Yeah, that's all I tell you guys. Just think about the ingredients that are in these foods that have been on the market for 50 years, 10 years, 5 years, 1,000 years, whatever the case is. Just use some common sense and little pestle and mortar, or mortar and pestle, and then grind it up. That's it. You can easily make your own food by combining. Like, you don't need to buy a specific powdered food. Like, why? You need to grab a BAP award and tap on it slowly. There you go, Kevin. Anthony's fishy friends, hello. Grow some algae, like I said. There you go. Can microworms, since it's easy? Yeah, I mean, you can use microworms. I don't really think it's necessary. When it comes to foods, you guys, one of the things that I've talked about before is you have to understand. I've done over 12 different species of live foods over the years, and I've narrowed it down to what I know works and what is effective for just about anything you can think of. Be very hard pressed to ever bring something to me within the freshwater fish keeping realm that wouldn't work with foods I've used over the years. I work with absolutely just slivered tiny fish, like into, larger, with a lot of your pasilids and that sort of thing. But vinegar eels, microworms, Daphnia brine. So let's just look at those 4. 4, not 8, but yeah, just 4. Is you have to look at how they go about within the water column. So they tend to stay at the bottom. Are they suspended in the water column? Do they kind of disperse about? Whereas a lot of powder food, they go up top. Some powder food, of course, is going to drop down over time. So again, kind of factor in some of those things when you're working with your fish, especially if you're trying to direct feed, target feed specific species of fish. So sometimes on the flip side of that is if you're growing out offspring, whatever offspring you're growing out, is if you think because of water volume, you're going to have so many swings and I'm going to have to keep up with water changes because of issues. And I've had just as much success with a 1 gallon as I have with a 50 gallon. Like, again, swings only happen depending on what you're doing. Oftentimes, it's not so much the water pollution as it is balancing out how you're feeding or what you're feeding and doing too many water changes. Because there is such thing as doing too much as there is doing too little. It's all about balance. Is sometimes, and I'm not saying stick your fry in a 1 gallon tank. I'm just telling you this, but use some thought. Use your thinking cap when it comes to how many offspring if you're putting them, let's say, in a 5.5 gallon tank, because oftentimes with certain fry, especially if you're working with rainbow fish, and I've worked with a number of them, killifish, other, like cyprinids and characins, so barbs and tetras and that kind of sort of thing. They're small, and you can get by, depending on the species, by doing a very well-established ecosystem and not doing water changes on it. Just set it and forget it, and just constantly be feeding that tank and top off. That's it, easy peasy. And that's what we do with a majority of the things, especially starting out. You'll be very surprised of what you can actually effectively get by with, without thinking that you have to be doing 150 water changes a day. I find when other people are getting into the aspects of breeding is I can't keep up with the feeding and I got to be doing 15 water changes a day and I'm not having any success. That's when you need to reflect. Maybe you just need to kind of scale it back a little bit and focus on, maybe not put 50 fry in that 2.5 gallon tank or that 5.5 gallon. Maybe disperse them. That's where redundancy comes in, as I've talked about before too, is have them dispersed in case something did fail in that one system. Now you have something to fall back on, because maybe it's that one fish that you've been trying to work with for 18 years and you just haven't had any success with it whatsoever. And there's nobody else on the planet that has that fish, only you. And you're going to beat yourself up if you put all your eggs in one basket. So again, look at the concept of what it is that you're feeding, how that food is distributed within the water column of whatever system that you're growing that offspring out, and look at the aspects of how those fish and what time that those fish are feeding. Sometimes fish come out better at night, more nocturnally, because they're not so skittish than during the day. Maybe you need to feed just before the lights go out. Light schedule is very important as well. So again, there's a lot of variables. 50 fry in 1 gallon sounds great. Yeah. Easily do 50 fry in 1 gallon. Easily. I'm telling you right now, with a lot of this stuff, easily. I've done it. Now, again, there's variables. I'm not telling you now on a lot of your Pasilids and Platies because they're going to be bigger, being a live-bearing species. But I'm talking from embryo development of an egg and then they're hatching out. I mean, they're small. I wouldn't recommend doing it in the 1 gallon. I would, of course, being sarcastic. But, yeah. And I know you're being sarcastic as well. So that's another great question. I've had that question asked time and time from time to time. I've had that when it comes to cyanobacteria, the blue-green algae, the ugly algae that everybody despises of, and it seems like once you get it, like duckweed, and it never goes away. And I'm changing the water 150 times and scrubbing that thing down. I'm using bleach, and don't do any of that. Okay. What I have personally found, when it comes to that, besides nutrient imbalances, usually first source is too much feeding. You guys would be very, very surprised. Anybody that knows me well enough of how effective I can run over 140 systems and the fish look pristine, absolutely pristine. I'm not just saying that and patting myself on the back because I'm the one doing it. That's the reality of it, of how much I actually have to feed. I'm telling you. Keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't think too much about it. Obviously, practical hands-on experience is key. I get it. Everybody learns at different levels, and everybody's going to do different things. And again, that's why you have to treat each little thing as its own science project, blah, 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 blah. You guys have heard me talk about that a billion times. And you're probably getting sick of it because it sounds like a broken record. But what I have found, anytime overfeed, but even more so, is dead zones within that system. So depending on what substrate you have in there, how thick the substrate is, but more so dead zones. So look at how your system is turning over in different areas of the system. That's why I like Malaysian trumpet snails work absolutely. They are your built-in rototiller in the aquarium hobby. They work phenomenally well. If you want to get into something fun and make maybe a little bit more change, is like your yellow rabbit snails. They are very easy, very low maintenance. And they produce on, once you're going to be paying the change for them up front. But they don't do as well, obviously, as like your Malaysian trumpet snails. But again, they like to get in there. I like them. That's why I like them. That's why a lot of people like them. Might not work for everybody. It works for me. And it works for a lot of other people too. But again, they're kind of your built-in rototiller. So again, balance of everything. What do you have at the bottom of the tank based on livestock? What do you have at the mid? And what do you have at the top? Again, everything needs to work in a harmonious relationship like a choir. If one person sounds horrible and then somebody is overpowering in the back, there's always that guy or girl in the back, you know it, that they're overpowering. They got to be the one that gets the attention. That's what I find with the Malaysian trumpet snail. They're the one trying to get the attention in the back. They feel like the low guy on the totem pole, okay? So, again, we have those at sergeanttank.com. I'm just saying, if you guys want some Malaysian trumpet snails, go ahead. Link right down there. I had to, okay? But they work great. We also have yellow rabbit snails on there as well. Just saying. But that's where I would recommend you start. Again, you got to play with it. You got to try it out, see what works, see what doesn't work. Great question, though. But that's typically when I found cyanobacteria issues. It's usually dead zones within that system. Somewhere there's too much dead zones. There's not enough turnover within that water column. I like this new Jeremy. Let's just say I've been dealing with a number of sinus issues and obviously neuropathic issues, and I'm just a wreck all around. But I try to bring a smile on my face to you guys and try to be somewhat energetic as I used to be here on the YouTubes and the interwebs. It's something I used to do a lot of. You guys, anybody new to the channel, I definitely appreciate it. If you guys haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that 2 thumbs up if there was a such thing as 2 thumbs up, but there's not. You could hit the thumbs down. I don't really care either way. I think it's actually quite comical and entertaining. I'm kind of surprised that I haven't gotten any trolls in the chat as of yet. So, again, that is awesome. And if you guys want to, you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you guys put on post notifications for any future updates. And make sure you guys click all for all notifications, because we know that they don't work anyways here on the platform. But, again, if you guys enjoy this, I definitely appreciate it. You guys can share it out if you want. We got going for an hour and 7 minutes and 23 seconds, 24 seconds now. And I'm glad that you guys are hanging out. I'm glad that you guys, I'm trying to overcome just a lot of issues up here. We know that there's a lot of issues up in my brain, but a lot of sinus issues. So they have me on some things. I have other testing come up. I've been suffering with that for years, and yeah, it's gotten really bad the last year and a half, 2 years. So on top of dealing with neuropathic issues and all of that stuff, which, come on, nobody really cares about it anyway. Oh, we got Brandon in the house, Maple Street Aquatics. How you doing, buddy? Aquatic Ness. Hello. Trolls are thin these days. I think we weaned them out. And Kevin's definitely a troll. Absolutely, 100%. If you guys think it, give it hearts in the chat. If you guys think that Kevin is a troll. I'm a troll. Are you a troll? What's a troll? Who's a troll? Car no gas. This is the first live stream. I apologize for that. Way to make a first impression, eh? Yeah. Right now it's hit or miss. Anybody that's been following me for any period of time knows me well enough here on the interwebs knows, and they're probably laughing. Who knows when I'll go live next? It could be in a day and a half. It could be a month from now. It could be a year from now. No, in all reality, that's a great question. I'm trying to get back into the groove of YouTube, so I definitely appreciate it. From the bottom of my heart, I'm not being insincere when I say that, or sarcastic. I definitely appreciate each and every one of you guys, not only from supporting at sergeanttank.com, but here on the YouTube. So we took a hiatus for almost 2 years on the platform, just needed to kind of reset and reflect, and a lot of people do that, kind of going through creator burnout. Some people that have been following for any period of time knows they're thinking, when they think of Jeremy here on Sergeant Tank, the YouTube channel, I think creator burnout. Well, it takes a creator to actually get burnout, and you're not a creator. So, burn on myself. But yeah, so used to do a lot of live streams. I've done lots and lots of live streams. We used to run multi live streams throughout the day, sometimes once, twice, two, three, 15 times a day. And yeah, so we got a super sticker from KG Cichlids. I appreciate that. Must be using an iPhone because the iPhone only seems to come in. I don't know why it can't be a straight dollar, but yeah. So I appreciate it, buddy. I appreciate it. I just feel lucky when I catch Sergeant Tank live, Maple Street. Well, I appreciate that, man. I definitely do. New England Endler, hello. Appreciate you chiming in. Surprisingly, I'm doing okay. Obviously, I was concerned when I first started just because the pressure is going on in the sinuses. But yeah. Well, we can keep this going for a little bit here. Why not? You caught me on a day when it's, yeah. Joel G, $1.49 super sticker. Appreciate it, man. Hope you are doing well, my friend. What do you guys want to talk about now? Anything in particular, you guys? Anything at all? Anything at all? KG said, "How dare you one up me, Joel?" Denny's Aquatics. Thank you guys very much. I definitely appreciate it. I can't say thank you guys enough. I appreciate it. It's never a requirement here, but yeah, I appreciate it. So thank you for the super chat, my friend. Aquatic Nest, a nice packaging on the white worms. I appreciate it. We always try to do our due diligence and make sure that everything gets there safe and sound. So absolutely. We got a bunch of orders going out tomorrow, so I'm excited to get things rolling again for you guys. Anybody here or has ordered and they're waiting, they will be going out. I sent everybody an email. So don't be surprised when you get a notification come tomorrow and you're like, wait a minute, my order's going out. I'm not going to be. So yeah. Make sure you guys check your email. It's right in the disclaimer when you guys add livestock to your cart. It will actually tell you to make sure that you guys read the shipping policies. I'm just saying, not everybody does that. So yeah, please read all the policies and procedures. They're there for a reason. What is the next breed project you are excited about? I'm just excited to get going on summer tubbing. That's what I'm excited to get going on. That's what I am excited to get going on for certain. Super sticker from Fish Tank Barn. I appreciate it. I really do. My phone's blowing up. My phone's been blowing up. I better look. Oh. It's nothing big. It's just emails. Who cares about those? Any fish that you can never breed enough of, been able but slow or few fry. So yeah, I mean, there's fish I definitely enjoy working with. Obviously, ones that I know are going to be able to move, and other ones that I would like to getting. So I'll be getting back into your Lucipennis, so your Synodontis. I actually just reestablished a system today. I do have some video. I know when Rob was here, I talked a little bit about that. That was a few years ago. There's a video over on Flip Aquatics. You can check out. His and I went through on at that time kind of what I'm going to look at that. Do I dare look at that? you know who you are. Lost my train of thought. So, wow, this has really gone to a train wreck. Is that what old age does? Told you, ASMR. So anyway, yeah, those are the ones that I'm going to get back into. I produced a lot of them before, but that is probably right at the very moment that I'm excited about is getting those guys rocking and rolling again, so I can start offering those back on the site. Yeah, that's at this moment what I'm excited about. Any bucket list summer breeding session? I can't give away too much of that right now. I can't do too much of that. I plan on bringing you guys some updates. Let's just say they're a fish that swims in water. Hopefully it stays in the water. Yeah, absolutely did not answer your question at all. But yeah, I'm going to leave it open-ended. Do you watch many fish channels nowadays? In all honesty, I don't. No, I don't even pay much attention to. Yeah, I don't. Have you cultured scuds? Those I don't really. I've had them before. Yes. Do I prefer culturing them? No. But freshwater scuds. Yes. I've seen those. We get them from time to time in the tubs. Like I said, any of that stuff I'm gonna bring you guys. Okay. I'm gonna try. They know what trying does, right? I'm kind of eating my own words here because I hate the word I'm trying. We'll just make it happen, okay? I'll bring you guys along during the preparation, show you guys all the microscopic organisms that we find, how to try to prevent those from happening within your setups, give or take, because people are coming from different climates. You may notice different things within those systems. But yeah, we can pull out the old microscope like we've done before and look at and zoom in on some of those microscopic organisms that you might find in a pond, which ones you might want to try to avoid, and which ones, hey, those guys are cool. But you know what, Kevin? I need a crazy hat to wear. I should bring my cowboy hat. I haven't pulled that one out in a while. I apologize for anybody that heard the last part of that. Didn't. Yeah. Anyway. God. Oh, that could have came off real bad. And now when they heard that. I like to see you use a microscope on fish poo. That's it. Yeah. Why not? You like that one, huh? Passion the fruit. Vinoski tanks. It's a bucket list. I like that. I like it. Oh, man. Dun, 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 dun. Exactly. I agree with you. When you say I try, it's just putting it on the back burner. You're only procrastinating because you don't want to do the inevitable. And that's putting out content that actually requires putting some time into content. Trust me, guys, I have a whole bag. Anybody that's been with me, that's not the issue. I have all the gadgets that I need to do all of the video content I need to do. And more than enough capability to do it. It just comes down to actually doing it. So. Any plants that have your interest right now? My number one plant, that is actually a good question. Now, one that gets my attention. Not necessarily. I love Cribs and Anubias in general, just because they're pretty low maintenance, in all honesty. But my number one plant that I've talked about before, my number one plant of all time, and that's actually in my presentation too, and I really focus on that quite a bit, is guppy grass, Nidus grass. It's a phenomenal plant. It grows phenomenally well. Basically, no light, low light, mid light, high light, whatever you want. And it works great for fry grow out. Works great for if you're spawning fish as a medium for them to spawn in. And the list goes on. I mean, it's one that you can't talk about enough. It is my absolute favorite. We do sell that. I've been selling it for a very long time. Surprisingly, there's some folks that just don't offer it because of whatever reason they don't have success when it comes to shipping it. It's by far the easiest plan. I can tell you, in my experience, when it comes to shipping, it is so easy to do. It's not even funny. But yeah, if you guys have ever ordered and received it, you know obviously how we ship it. But yeah, I mean, it's one that I have a lot of, and it's one that I will eventually be offering. I have some Valsaria spiralis, which is kind of funny because spiralis means like spiral. Anyway, it's one that I grow a lot of. It's a nice, neat plant. Not too much maintenance. I do plan on offering ones that we basically, when it comes to propagation, reproducing certain plants. It's one that I do plan on offering on the site, but we do have guppy grass on there right now. So that's about all I can say when it comes to plants. So a rat video? No. Mm-mm. Nope. That will never happen. No rap videos from this guy. That I can tell you. You do not want to hear me even attempt the rap. Now, if you want to hear some freestyle rapping here on the YouTubes, no affiliation whatsoever, check out Harry Mack. The guy is an absolute legend. I'm telling you right now, you're not going to find anybody that's going to top that. Anybody. When I'm in my zone, just put him on in the background. And I'm not even a huge fan, first of all, of like hip hop, that genre. I grew up around music, play guitar, not so much anymore. Used to sing, used to even record my own stuff. I have a mixer, I have all of that. I have an entire PA system, but I don't really do too much of that anymore. And but it's one that gets my attention very quick. I love aspects of freestyle. Just be able to just on the fly like that. Yeah, it's just nuts. How about getting rid of scuds? What fish would you use? Oh my goodness. They move so fast. That's a great question. Since I don't really deal too much with scuds in general, I can't give you, in all honesty, a direct response to that. I couldn't. Maybe there's somebody here in chat. I know Lucas, LRB, he does or used to do quite a bit. He would be a better source, that hands-on practical, that's been doing it for a long time, that could tell you. I know from when I've kept them before, not with the intent to actually reproduce them, that I've even had them in with some cichlids and they never even touched them. So again, there's so many variables when it comes to, if you're looking at predatory type fish, to do it. But now you kind of piqued my interest, so maybe I'll do some research into that at some point in the future, and next time have a better answer for you. So. Little white worms, leeches, what are they? If they're within your freshwater home aquaria, not like outdoors, chances are, depending on if they have like a spade, almost looking more wider in their motion, they kind of do one of these. Those are planaria. Now more round and they kind of wiggle around. Those are probably just your detritus worm. But without seeing exactly what they are, we could speculate all day. So without seeing an image, there's literally hundreds, if not thousands, of organic type of aquatic organisms within freshwater that we don't even see with our own eyes. But typical ones that you're going to find, most of them are completely harmless. Is going to be like your planaria, your detritus worms, that sort of thing. But yeah, again, there could be a number of different things. Don't have much left for guppy grass, but still a bit here and there. Any tips on how you make what I got left? Take off. Yes, it prefers cooler temperature, and you are in the optimal area for cooler temperatures. So, again, we maintain most of our systems. Some systems that we have are between 68 and others mid 70s, 77, in that range. I find our hardness here works absolutely well. I don't have to dose the tanks. Lighting, so good lighting, 6500 Kelvin. Some point I'll probably talk about lighting that we use. I always test things, you guys. I test things for at least a year or more before I'm going to offer any type of insight to try to, again, bring some insight, maybe bring some inspiration to you guys, and ultimately try to help save you guys some money. But again, even if I share the information, it may work for you, it may not work for you. But yeah, so I would say hardness here in GR area, a decent amount of bicarbonates, so not too soft, not too acidic. I know when I've kept it in more of an acidic situation, like your Saswassertang, not Subwassertang, Saswassertang, like karate chop. That I found did better in more of a 6.8 to 7.2, even more of a neutral 7.0. 7.2 in that range, with limited to no, like 0 to 1 carbonate hardness. That's one I used to grow a lot of. Lots and lots of that. But in more of those softer water. But I would sell scuds instead of getting rid of them. There you go. I mean, people buy them. Obviously, people like them. They're feeding them. I'm just telling you, I know for me, when I've kept them in a tank, and it's not like I kept them in 50 different tanks, but when I've kept them, like, I think I've had them with apistogrammas before. I've had them, I know, with some other dwarf cichlids. It's been so many years. That's why I can't really give you. I wish I just took better notes, I guess. My mind goes foggy, I guess. Maybe comes with age. I don't know. But yeah, so I don't recall exactly. I wish I could tell you what was actually in there specifically, but I know whatever was in there, it didn't, because they move so fast. So maybe a goby. So certain gobies, like a Rhinogobius, desert goby, it would actually be kind of a neat test to see, would they, because they kind of, when you look at it, some of your gobies tend to kind of hide in more of a rock dwelling, and if you had them in there, they kind of like to shoot out at their food. So again, that kind of comes down to the psychology of the livestock. I have, I've kept shrimp in my larger, like Melanitania, some of my rainbow fish, And, these rainbow fish are basically full grown. It don't care. I'm not advising that you do that. But, yeah, I mean, obviously shrimplets could be a different story. But, yeah, I mean, I've had adults in there and they go figure. Thomas Kelly, yes. At sargentine.com, we're one of the few when it comes to home aquaria that actually offers your Danio margaritatis, your Galaxy Res Bora, Celestial Pearl Danio. Lots of different common names. But yes, your Celestial Pearl Danios, I breed a lot of them. Absolutely. Yep. Tips, do them outdoors. If you're in a climate that you can do it, usually if you're within the U.S., depending on if you're more in the northern part of the U.S., so like we're in Michigan, I start right around, I'll start once temperatures get to a point of about where the lows are basically going no lower than about 50 to 52. I'm already adding water to that system when I know it's not going to be dropping much below that. Once it starts getting to the low, I'm focused on lows at this point, not highs. Just bear with me. Once the lows start getting to, let's say 58 to 65, that's when I'm going to start focusing on getting already up to this point. Rewind. Use municipal if you're on it. Use your water source. Fill up your tubs. I like keeping the tubs. I found in my experience, I've done them in large 100-gallon like that stock tanks, and I've done them in round white, painted black on the outside. The main thing to maintain when it comes to the tubs I have found, it's all based on light source. So you're going to get where it peaks during the day. We keep these specific systems on, so it would be basically just outside of like the south side view. So it's kind of blocking the way it comes down, and it's providing a kind of a balance between a little bit of shade and where it's kind of bouncing off the kind of the broad side, the side of the garage. It's reflecting enough, so it's providing an appropriate balance of heat source as well as light source. And use river stone, so just small river rock. You don't need to go real thick with it. Keep in mind, like midge larvae and that sort of thing, there's a lot of different predatory type pests that can happen when an ecosystem outdoors. So it's things to keep in mind. I'm not going to spend an hour talking about preventatives on that, but yeah, there's different things that you can use when it comes to preventing before you actually get stock in there. My rule of thumb when it comes to Celestial Pearl Danios is, again, plants at the bottom. You don't need a lot of plants. Like Valsnaria does really, really well. That's really all I use. And then some floating plants. You can use like creeping jenny. You can use water hyacinth if you're able to have it, depending on where you're at. Water lettuce. It provides a nice root structure that comes down. I find those are actually more important than actually at the bottom. And then they'll do their business within that water column. 18 to 20 gallons, I find plenty sufficient. Wouldn't go too much more than that. Start out with 3 females and 2 males. Condition them. I talked about this earlier on, so I'm not going to cover that. Condition adaptation is important before you even start the process of introducing them outdoors. Once that gets stable, so once your highs within that water source, within that system, so we've done everything preparing, getting it ready for it. Once it gets to, and then tip 2 is just drill like 1.5 inches. You can put a bulkhead if you want. Keep it simple when it comes to tubs, you guys. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I will be covering this, like I said a little bit ago, in more detail once we get closer to this season. And it won't be too much farther. So I don't want to spend and sound too redundant going through all of this again, but I'll show you guys a process. That's my plan, and kind of bring you guys along. But I find that in our climate, they do phenomenally well. You can do them indoors too. There's a lot of different things that you can do when it comes to indoors. My rule of thumb, though, if you're going to try to breed them indoors, don't go crazy with water fluctuations and pH. If you look at our water parameters, if you go to sergeanttank.com and you look at the listing of the Celestial Pearl Danio, those will not be available until fall, because I am going to be producing a ton of these come summertime. So you guys would be surprised of how many systems I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing a lot. So indoors, same concept. Look at the water parameters. It's all listed under the listing. Like I said, if you're trying to get your hands on some through a source, we do offer them. Like I said, I'm just not depleting what I have. I have a lot of them, but I'm not going to be offering any of them. This is genetic lineage I've been working on for quite a few years now, and I'm very particular about that, and I'm going to be using that strategically for starting the process come in the next couple of months or so. But yeah, so again, breeding format and how you incorporate that within a system, I would just use a 10-gallon aquarium, keep it simple, keep it cost effective. River rock, like your river pebbles that you can get at Home Depot, again, not being paid for by, sponsored by Menards. Any of your home improvement stores, 40, 50-pound bags are super cheap, like $2.86, $3, maybe $4 a bag, depending on where you get it. Keep it simple, keep it cheap. Looks very natural. Throw some Nias grass in there. You can throw a spawning mop in there. Keep in mind that the adhesive bond with the eggs from Celestial Pearl Danios is not all of them, but the majority of them will just fall through. So you can create basically, and I have different systems. This is stuff I can share with you guys maybe in a later video. I keep some of the stuff to myself, though. I don't share everything, but there is systems that you can create to help maximize the overall effectiveness, to make it easier on yourself in the end. Ultimately, you're accomplishing the same goal by doing it that way. But I would just honestly, what I have found with CPDs, rather than pulling the eggs, I've done it that way before, creating a great system where the eggs fall through, they do their business, they spawn, you can condition. Photo periods is also important when it comes not only to them, but a number of different fish. So keep in mind your light schedule, and at times that you're going to find that oftentimes with barbs and even some tetras is an hour or two before is you're separating males and females. You're introducing them together depending on the species that it is. You're conditioning them separately ahead of time. The system that you have set up is going to contain the female or females. Odd numbers work great. That's why I said 3 females, 2 males with CPDs. Same thing I would do with barbs, tetras, what have you. The majority of them, not necessarily all of them, majority of them. And you're conditioning them separately. That's where you're going to kind of intake a little bit more of the protein foods. Mosquito larvae works phenomenally well if you're able to do it. It's one of the greatest sources in free that you can do, and they mass produce, especially during the spring, summer, and into the fall. They depending on the climate, they work phenomenally well when it comes to condition. They absolutely love it. It's going to really trigger them, kind of induce some of those spawning behaviors. Once you get them conditioned, you see that female looking nice and plump. Females and males are very easy to identify differences between the two when it comes to appearance. In the how you really tell with them is sexually dimorphic. You can find that oftentimes with a lot of different things, but sometimes overlooked is the females will tend to be gravid, so you're going to see a black dot underneath, and that's how you can differentiate through sexual dimorphic appearance between males and females. And you're ultimately then conditioning them, have a female ready to go in that system. You can try it a couple of different ways. Another thing that you can do is leave space. So if you have a 10-gallon tank, you ultimately, let's say, you're basically taking the back quarter of that tank. So let's say you're looking at it this way. No matter how you're looking at it, that's just my runs. A lot of us do when it comes to fish breeding. You just get more in, more compact, more opportunity there as far as systems. But anyways, if you can visualize it, one of our systems that we have specifically when it comes to with CPDs and other egg depositing type specimens is the back quarter of that is basically glassed off. It's very easy to cut glass. You can just use plain 1/8-inch plate glass. It's very cost effective. You can cut it down. It's very, very easy to cut glass, especially at least for me. It's just I've been doing it for a very long time. And then you're going to silicone that back quarter, bring all the way up to the black trim. You can take like PVC, 90s, what have you, at the 4 corner points. So the front half of that is you're going to in line with where that glass comes down. So it doesn't have to be a perfect science, but let's say that piece of glass comes down, enough space, depending on what it is. Obviously, you're not going to be able to be breeding, big old fish in that, but the same concept, you could expand that into a larger system. And then basically you're creating a great system. So like you're a very cost effective. Oftentimes you can get at a dollar store. You can go to Joann's, what have you. And then you're going to get the sower's fabric, like that acrylic, that non type of leaching type chemical, and they have just big enough holes for these type of fish where the eggs are just small enough to pass through. And basically what you're trying to recreate is where the adults cannot get through to that system. And now how you want to recirculate the water isn't necessarily the most important thing. So as you see the fry go through that grate system where now you're separating, where the eggs are going to drop down, keep it completely bare bottom. And, you are going to get over time a little bit of mulm and that sort of stuff. Not necessarily the biggest factor when it comes to that. You can keep the sponge filter rate up in by the adults. That's what I would recommend using. And then they will drop down, and they don't take very long to hatch out. Most of your cyprinids, kerosins, that sort of thing, usually depending on water chemistry and water temperature, usually within 3 to 5 days in that neighborhood. And what you're going to do is with a light, you'll go down there at nighttime is what I find. This is absolute key. And you're going to find them in that, when you want to catch them, is in that regular stage. And again, if you have you can paint the bottom too to help kind of make those stand out, those eggs. So if you want to paint it black or put something under there that's black, that's completely up to you, not completely necessary. And then as soon as you start seeing, you could also put a bunch of Nias grass or even spawning mops under there too. But why I don't necessarily do that is so I can spot them immediately. And as soon as you start spotting either the eggs or the regulars, and what you can do is go ahead and pull the adults out, let them start hatching out. If you want to give it a week or so, even with the adults in there, most likely they're going to stay underneath that grate system, and they'll stay at the bottom half, and then they have that whole room that come up along the back. You can take a pipette, you can take a turkey baster, you can suck them out. You do want to be careful. I wouldn't be even netting them out with a fine net. Definitely use either a dip and pour, use a deli cup, scoop them out if that's how you want to harvest. And what we do with ours is I have just a basic rubber band. You can pull that that grate is what I'm referring to it as, but whatever sort of spacing that you're using, you can make your own. The main thing is you don't want those adults to get through. And the holes don't have to be super, super big, but why I like that, what I would classify as the sower's fabric, that plastic material, is it works phenomenally well, and you're not wasting a lot of it in a 10-gallon. Basically, that's how I gauge in kind of the size that I use within that system. It will work also in a 20 long as well, 15-gallon, 10-gallon. You can do it at 5.5, but or bigger if you want to. But those type of systems work phenomenally well, I find. And when it comes to feeding CPDs, offspring, like why I like it outdoors is we do absolutely no additive feeding outside whatsoever. I feed maybe once a year. That's it. Once you can get it established where the microbacterium and the microfauna and all the microscopic organisms start developing within that system, it's plenty sufficient. You can periodically harvest if you are pulling them from outdoors. Again, that's where the adaptation conditioning comes in. Make sure that you temperature acclimatize and make sure that the water source, I've had no issues. Obviously, it's going to tend to be a little bit more acidic coming from outdoors versus what we have in here. I personally have not found a big issue when I have do periodic harvests throughout the spring, summer, into the fall, and then we start bringing those in order to condition them indoors. From that standpoint is just temperature acclimatize, get a system ready to go. That's kind of season. And don't worry about too much as far as the overall pH level. And just most important thing I found, again, most important factor is water temperature acclimatization. And then you can go ahead and then introduce those into that system. They will start pretty much right away. You can feed vinegar eels. I would highly recommend, though, that you probably just stick with microworms, and then eventually even with baby brine shrimp, the smallest of the baby brine. And then once they start getting bigger, then you can start introducing Daphnia. Yeah, so I know that went a bit longer than I anticipated, so hopefully that can kind of get you a little bit on the right track. Again, when it comes to breeding, you guys, like even when it comes to a lot of your cichlidae, so a lot of your mouth breeding type cichlids, if you're pulling, if you're stripping the females or what have you, and where certain eggs through embryo development tend to do better through air drive system like is this, where they're kind of bouncing at the bottom. Another example I have here, I already showed you guys spawning mops and our customized caves and that sort of thing, but you can make these very simple, very, very simple to do. You don't even have to go to this point. I used to do it back in the day, just use some pantyhose, cut them up in the uplift or the tubes that come from like your sponge filters. Just rubber band it, pull it over, rubber band it, or use a zip tie, cut it off, add air, and then basically you'll kind of get it to a point where they're not coming out or nothing get in at them. And then that's how you can kind of tumble. I'm not saying obviously that's a different topic here than the CPDs, but yeah, these are very, very easy to make. You can make them pretty inexpensive. Obviously, if you only need one, I would just buy your own. I wouldn't go out. By the time you get all the PVC, if you buy things in bulk, that's where you're going to save yourself money. Now it comes down to, if you're only needing one or two, I would honestly just go on eBay, Amazon. If you can get them local through another hobbyist, you can pick these egg tumblers up. There's a number of different things that you can do, but they work phenomenally well. And if you are making a lot of them, or needing a lot of them for whatever the case might be, then I personally, that's how you save a little bit in the end. But again, people oftentimes value their time. And if you have the money and you don't really care, then I would just recommend that you buy them. But that's another thing to kind of think about too. I have that sitting up here that I did not show earlier on. But I have a number of different types of spawning methods that I use. And it really is kind of subjective depending on what it is that specifically working with. But yeah, great question. So I know that carried on a little bit longer than I anticipated. We got Brendan in the house. How you doing, Flynn? We got Bob in the house. Kayla's Aquatic. Salute. All right. How do you control dragonfly nymphs? Those can be a pain. I've had them indoors as well. Basically hand removal. You got to just catch it. You can use the mosquito bites or mosquito bits that you can get. There's different manufacturers tend to help. I personally haven't really found necessarily it catches everything, but that is an option. If I think of it, once this concludes, you can come back afterwards and check down the description below, and I'll add some of those links there for you, and you can check out what I would use in the process. That's not really going to be affecting any livestock that's in your tubs. Hopefully you don't get them indoors, but yes, I have had them. I have found, and I again want to make this very clear. That's why I don't talk a lot about medicating tanks. I'm very familiar with it. I have just about every regimen that I need to medicate just about anything that I need to medicate. But I just want to kind of make that clear that I'm not going to really talk too much about chemical type additives when it comes to medicating to eradicate, because the last thing I want to see is somebody go out and apply something and eradicating everything within the system. not just the pest. So yeah, I'm going to leave it at that, but I will try to afterwards drop some links there for you guys. No affiliate links, nothing like that. But hey, if I can help you guys out a little bit, that's what I would recommend to kind of help combat and control some of those issues. But I find ham removal it's the best thing to do and just put them out of their misery. So, yep. But I appreciate it very much, you guys. I apologize for anybody just kind of coming in here. We have gone about 15 minutes past the hour mark, so we're coming up on 2 hours. Usually I keep these around an hour, and I've heard family and so forth, wife and kids, so I do want to get back and spend some time there. So I appreciate you guys very much. If you haven't done so up to this point, I would greatly appreciate it. It means a lot to us that you guys hit the thumbs up. Make sure you guys, if you're not already, just give me some time. The information is there. I try not to rant too much, but if you guys do enjoy this type of content and want to see more at some point here in the future when it comes to different aspects of this amazing fish keeping hobby, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, put on those little post notifications. We know that they don't really work anyway, but hey, give it a try. And with that being said, you guys, great questions, great dialogue. I'm glad. Thank you guys all so much for the super stickers, super chats, all of that jazz. Thank you everybody for chiming in on a impromptu afternoon Sunday live stream here on the Sergeant Tank YouTube channel. If you want to check out more about what we got going on, you can check us out over on Instagram, Facebook, business page, as well as all the links down below in the description. Let me know down in the comments once this video is uploaded, if you're watching this now in the replay, of what type of content that you would like to see or talk about in a future video. And with that being said, you guys always stay encouraged, keep on keeping on. Happy fish keeping. We'll talk to you guys in the near future.